like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome to Her Story, the journey to winning a seat at the table. I'm your host, Mary Jane Murray, and this program is a series of conversations with inspirational women who have amazing stories to share. And stories are a tapestry of lifelong experiences and events. Let's explore the journey. My guest today is Sabrina Perry. Now, you may recognize that last name. Yes, she is related to Mark Perry, who's the producer of this show. Hey. And Sabrina is a professional musician and teacher. And she received her Bachelor of Music, her Bachelor of Music Performance on violin from Memorial University in St. John's in Newfoundland. And during that time, she encountered some difficult health issues in which to overcome. But of course, she did, and she's here with us today, which is wonderful. She's also developed a passion for performing, but not only that, a passion for teaching and community and creating community through music. She became involved with Alcemia, which is a music education program for social change. And now that she's living in New Brunswick, she has created Grace Notes Music Academy, which is a nonprofit music academy for all children, regardless of their financial situation, so that they could grow joyfully into healthy, thriving adults. We often see very accomplished women in interesting roles, but we know that that spark can emerge at any stage, at any age. And for Sabrina, the spark emerged at a very early age. And this is Sabrina's story. Welcome, Sabrina, and thank you for taking the time to have a conversation with us. It's so delightful to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Well, you grew up in Grey County. I mean, how wonderful is that? Yeah. So can you reflect back on your early years here in Grey County and actually what started you off on this journey?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like everything, honestly, in my whole life has led towards this, so I could spend forever on this question. But I have loved music for as long as I can remember. I remember it just being a part of my life. As a child, we had family get-togethers where Grandpa played fiddle. My grandpa played fiddle, and like Grandma played piano, and others on guitar, just singing like country songs and gospel songs. My mom had music on all the time. I know she liked Natalie McMaster and John McDermott, and I had little cassette tapes of like Beethoven Lives Upstairs. So right away you see the violin or the fiddle and classical merging in my life. And my parents tell me that by the time I was 2 years old, I was asking if I could please play the violin. Now I was told I was a little bit too little at 2, so I started at 4, at age 4. And really just took off from there. I played classical and fiddle most of my life growing up in Owen Sound. And I think it was by the time I was in grade 7, I really knew that that was what I wanted to do. This music was going to be my career in some way, shape, or form, especially performance. I really did want to be a performance major. And so I pursued that. I went to Memorial University for my Bachelor of Music Performance degree on violin. But at the same time, while I was also really focused on my performing career, I think I was always one of those kids who kind of wanted to change the world and was very passionate about certain things and wanted to help people. And I always wanted to combine my love of music with helping people and had heard of music therapy before. And so my original plan was actually to do my Bachelor of Music Performance with a minor in psychology, which I did get, so that I could then continue on to become a music therapist and use music in a way of helping others. And I volunteered with music therapists, and I still to this day very much love music therapy and think it's wonderful. I've debated many times going back to school and getting my music therapy degree. But what changed my path slightly was my string pedagogy class in university talked about the El Sistema method. So if you don't know, that's a free orchestral music education program that originated in Venezuela. And its goal was in a country where gang violence is high and there's extreme poverty, they wanted to use music to save lives and change society, heal their society through music. And I was immediately just enamored by this idea that I could use music, not just in a clinical setting like what music therapy does, which is wonderful, but also in a way that would battle really big issues like poverty and gang violence and drug addiction, and helping just heal our society and raise kids up to be beautiful human beings and excellent musicians at the same time. So then I continued on that path and started teaching pretty much immediately, actually, for a Sistema-inspired program in St. John's, and ultimately discovered that that was my joy. Like this was the path for me. I love teaching group classes, the energy that comes from, 50-piece orchestras or like 10 to 20 kids in a violin class is just totally my thing. And I loved being able to be that caring mentor to kids, especially the kids who need it, who might not have that at home or in their lives in other ways for whatever reason that is. Being able to be that voice in their life that helps them and mentors them and helps them grow up again to be just a healthy and thriving adult.
Well, I think that music in many forms has the opportunity to take you away from the day-to-day struggles of your life. And it just takes you into another realm where you feel that you can be free because you're so focused on the music, and it just embodies every cell in your body, and you're just lifted up by that. And by doing it in groups like that, then you have this shared community experience. What a joyful life to be doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
So you did have a couple of pivotal moments along your journey. And did that ever sidetrack you in any way, or was that just a hurdle to get over and move on with what was important to you?
Yeah, I think I would word it really as everything sort of has played into the mission of the music school that I now run. So rather than, I guess you could think of them as hurdles. There were rough times. For example, you mentioned the health issues that I've been through. In the span of, I think, 4 years, I had thyroid cancer twice and dislocated my knee and had abdominal surgery on top of a life hurdle of when we moved across the country, all of our stuff was stolen. And I wouldn't minimize any of that. Like, those were really hard years. And I had a lot of wrestling and figuring out wrestling with God and on why this was happening to me. But now, as part of my mission for Grace Notes, things that I learned from that part of my journey are part of this mission. So having those health issues really pushed me to do my own research into sort of health and wellness. And I got really into the power of nutrition. I've read a ton on nutrition and have experienced myself its power to help you feel better. And the same with movement or exercise. And so those are parts of what I do with the kids now at Grace Notes. We have the music part, which I've always loved, and I've always known all the benefits of music. But we have a healthy snack every day at Grace Notes, and we have a movement break every day for the kids to get their bodies moving, because I myself learned through my own struggles how valuable that is, and that is part of them growing up to be really healthy and thriving adults. And even just learning how to overcome emotionally those hard things that were happening to me. I know I read a book that was really influential, that really changed my life, was 1000 Gifts by Anne Voskamp. And it's really talking about the power of giving thanks. And like she words it as counting gifts from God, but you can think of it as a gratitude list or whatever you'd like. And I do that with the kids a lot too, on like, let's name something that we're thankful for before we have our snack, because that's such a powerful way to realize, at least for me, that God, in giving all of these gifts to me, is here with me and he loves me. And there are these positive things to focus on, which helps me emotionally overcome those hard times in life, and therefore helps me help other people overcome their whatever they're going through, and gives me words to speak to them. I think that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't gone through my own struggles. I have a different understanding.
Well, I think that that was such an inspirational message that you're giving us, Sabrina, in the sense that we all go through hard times in our life. No journey is without any hardships in some point, in some way. And to have those tools to start, building on your mental health and keeping your feet firmly on the ground and moving forward, that is really important. And it's really important for other women to know that overcoming those challenges and moving on and having so much happiness in your life to be able to share with others is important. One of the things that I have noticed through the conversation is this happened and that happened and this happened and that happened. And then they coalesce into this sphere of influence in which you can impart onto others.
Yeah.
So in our journey in our lives, it's interesting how we think these random things will all come together with a specific meaning and purpose.
You know what's amazing too is the reason we moved to this little tiny village in New Brunswick is because my husband got a job here pastoring the local Baptist church. And I actually was very fearful about the move here because I had no idea what I was going to do. And I was I've always been passionate about my career. I've been pretty career oriented. And I had wonderful jobs in Vancouver where we were before this. And was like, well, what am I going to do in a tiny village in New Brunswick? Like, there's no symphony there. There's no music school. Like, I don't really know what my life is going to look like there. But my husband and I knew that this is where God was calling us to go. And so I trusted that. And I came here. And what actually happened is that I got to do my dream. I got to combine everything that I've learned and all the experiences that I've had through everything else, and start this music school, the nonprofit music school. And I get to do all sorts of things through my church as well that also work with kids in the community. And it's like this picture of not exactly knowing where I was going, but just trusting that's where I was supposed to be, turning out to be the most amazing thing and living the dream vision of a program that's been kind of forming in the back of my mind for many years, and knowing that I've always wanted to do this. But probably wasn't ready, honestly, until I went through all the things that I did in Vancouver and arrived here and finally got to do it.
Well, as I understand, you still have some of your students from Vancouver that you are still teaching. And, certainly we're all grateful for Zoom.
Yes. Yeah, that's been pretty amazing too, actually. Obviously, I started teaching online in Vancouver. We were still in Vancouver when the pandemic started, and all my students moved online. And I have been so honored that my students feel such a connection with me that they have still chosen to continue to take lessons with me, even though I live way on the other side of the country. There's a 4-hour time difference between me and my BC students, and but they're wonderful. I love being able to still connect with them online. And it's great because I teach after school hours here, and then after school hours start in Vancouver. So I teach quite late in the evening, it means, but I teach 2 after school hours and get double the amount of teaching.
Oh, well, I can see by the enthusiasm and that huge smile on your face that as to why the students want to continue with them, because you seem to bring so much joy into not only the music, but into the teaching, that it has become part of your being in terms of how you respond to things. And I can see how your students would love that.
Yeah, I hope so. I do believe that learning music should be enjoyable because I don't know why we would make music if it wasn't something that we enjoyed, even though there's 100% an aspect of hard work related to music as well. I mean, the violin is not an easy instrument to play, and you're going to need to practice and put in the work. The more advanced you get, the more work that is. But you need to enjoy the music. And so I think I try to take a flexible approach too, where I play both fiddle and classical music. That plays in really well because the kids kind of get a bit of both and they can lean towards one or the other depending what they like. And I'm pretty open too. Sometimes they ask me for pop songs and Christmas songs and things. And I'm like, sure, let's do it. Like if you really want to do that and the music is the motivation for you to like work hard and learn that song and learn the technique required to play that song, I think that's the best motivator.
Well, you feel so proud of yourself once you've accomplished that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think building confidence in children is really important in order for them to grow into a confident adult as well. Mm-hmm. And sometimes because of family circumstances, children don't always get that sense of confidence through their environment, but they can get it through the music.
Yeah, that's a lot of what the benefit of these Music for Social Change programs are. It's, I mean, music has the ability to teach so many things. I could go on forever about studies on like cognitive development improvements. But I think the power of music is it's teaching social skills and it's life skills. And then it's community as well. This learning how to work together and learning that your hard work contributes to this greater whole of creating that beautiful music. And while you're doing that, you're learning like fine motor skills and concentration and focus as you're playing your instrument and you're listening to what's going on around you and you're watching a conductor and you're reading your music. And all of those are life skills that translate elsewhere. But perhaps even the most important is that community part. The community part is the part that builds the confidence that they can realize that their hard work led to them being able to play this piece really well. So their hard work pays off. And then when they perform that piece for their community, for whether it's their parents or it's a bigger community concert, and they receive that applause of their community congratulating them for that hard work, then I think that's what boosts the confidence in them saying like, I can do this. My community is supporting me. When I put in the work, I am capable and I have the potential to do this. And so it all just plays into each other of all these amazing life benefits that kids can learn through being part of a musical community.
Well, I think that is so important because one of the things that we have all suffered through over the past 2.5 years is that sense of isolation. Yeah. And even though we've been communicating through Zoom, it's just not quite the same thing. Mm-hmm. And performing for your family, they're going to love you anyway, and they're going to clap no matter what. Yeah. But to see it in the broader community, and now that we're in a time frame, we hope that is a little more open, although I hear it may be a little more rolling back a bit into more being more cautious. But that sense of achievement is so important. But the other part of that too is that sense of discipline in terms of you need to practice.
Yep.
And that's probably the harder part of all of this.
Yeah, I think that kind of takes us back to the trying to make sure that music is the motivator part because you want them to actually want to play. But yeah, being able to push through, I know I have several students who find it hard when they can't do something right away. They kind of just want to quit and they're like, I didn't do it. And so they have a meltdown. And that's tricky because violin, you're probably not going to get it on the first try. You know, you're going to make a mistake. Music, you will never be 100% perfect. I tell them like my performances are not perfect. My performances are the art of being able to fake the parts that I messed up. And like, I'm just, I've gotten so good at that you probably didn't know that I messed up, but my performance was not 100% perfect. And that's okay. But you've got to be willing to experiment and work on it and progress slowly to become good at your instrument and being willing to put in the work. And yeah, sometimes maybe not sound so great and that's okay. We'll work through it. I'm here to help you. My job is to help you be successful at learning the instrument.
Well, that's always really important when anyone hears the words, it's my job to help you look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My students have their first big performance coming up. I'm running a big Christmas concert with a whole bunch of local musicians, and my first after school program group of kids is invited to perform. And yesterday they kind of had that panic when I was like, our performance is in 2 weeks, and they went, and they were so scared. And that was my assurance. It's like, I won't let you go on there if I think you will fail. It is my job to make sure that you are ready and you play amazing. Like, I promise that you will sound good at this concert.
Oh, those are such reassuring words. Yes, we all need those every once in a while. um, I wanted to, I usually ask my guests if there was a time where they felt they found their voice, but I think you found your voice at a very early age to encourage your passion going forward. But did you ever run into a roadblock where you felt that you weren't being heard in your community or in the music community or in the medical field when you were going through your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, I've always been pretty headstrong in kind of knowing what I wanted and just going for it and purposefully making the connections that I needed to make that happen. I know when I first started university, that was tricky. I think it's sort of, it was a very classical degree, which is very strict in some ways. And I grew a lot through that. And I highly value everything that I learned, especially from my violin professor during that time. But there were aspects of me that sort of collided with that really strict classical world where I was also a fiddler and I love experimenting in other types of music that's a little bit more free in the way that you perform it. And so that sort of gave me a slight doubt halfway through that degree, but that was when I found my passion for teaching and for these music for social change programs. And so that really just reignited what had maybe been lost a little bit. In terms of health issues, I think that would be an area much more where I felt like it was harder to be heard. I think we can all agree our healthcare system is struggling, and it was long before the pandemic. And that is one where I learned I really had to take my own initiative to, just make sure that I'm asking doctors questions and I'm asking for more information and I'm making sure that they're staying on top of all of the tests and things because doctors are overwhelmed. It's not necessarily their fault. They're so busy that things can easily fall through the cracks. But not only that, making sure that I put in my own research on saying, okay, like this is what I've got. Are there things that I can do through lifestyle changes like nutrition and movement and sleep and stress management? And I really had to dive in myself because I felt like I wasn't getting the help that I wanted from our overburdened, stressed out medical system. So just encouraging people in terms of health stuff, definitely do your own reading, find trusting resources as well. I'm really lucky that my husband has a science degree, so we can usually manage to go through some of the actual studies. And I did data management and research statistics for part of my psychology degree. So the two of us together can sort of weave our way through maybe more complex studies and things, which might not be what everyone is able to do, but
No, but I think the basic message here is to follow through on your gut reaction and to follow through on taking care of your own health and your own situation. It's not just your health, but in any life situation that you're going through, is to gather that information, know the facts, learn as much as you can about the situation, and then actually use your voice to ask the questions. And to make sure that you're getting the answers that you need, you might have to ask the question multiple times in multiple ways. And I think what we learned from the pandemic is that we always have to do our own risk assessment and find ways to keep ourselves, our mental health, and our bodies well and healthy during that time. So I think it's been a lesson sort of for all of us. But I think that sometimes when we feel that we're not being heard, we have to find another route. And I think that's what you've been telling us in terms of how you manage that. I found another route.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that route was life-changing too. I don't think that I had fully realized how much control you can have over your health. I mean, some of it is not, like, obviously there was nothing I did that caused me to have thyroid cancer. They don't know what causes that. As far as I know, like, other than maybe I was super stressed out during my degree, that probably wasn't super helpful. But, there are things you can't control, but there are a ton of things that you can. Like, the food that you put in your body is so huge, whether it causes inflammation or it helps your body, and everybody's going to be different on that too. You have to figure out what works for you, and just getting that movement in. For the pandemic, it saved me. I mean, all the days that I was so stressed out over, like, I have to rewrite my entire COVID policy for my music school because they changed all the rules, and my husband would look at me and say, I think you need to go work out, because it was like my emotional release, and I just let it out through movement somehow, and it saved me.
Oh, well, that's good news. That's good. And in the flow of the conversation, I generally ask our guests, what did you learn about yourself? But what I'm hearing from you is that it has been a learning journey, and you have taken charge of that learning experience.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, my philosophy too is there's always more to learn, especially as a teacher. I can always just keep growing in becoming a better teacher for students. I mean, through watching other teachers is super helpful. I do a lot of reading. There's a developmental psychologist I'm reading right now named Dr. Gordon Neufeld, especially if you're thinking of working with at-risk kids, like really understanding their situation, and then health stuff. Like, it's a constant journey of just trying to improve the way that I teach, the way that I live my life. Yeah, I feel like I'm just always learning.
Well, I think that what's important is for this program and the conversations that I have with women is I want to inspire other women to not only take charge of their life, but to always see that they are worthy to be in any field that they want to be in. And so, do you have any words of wisdom that would encourage other women to pursue their passion, their goals, their careers, whatever it is?
I don't know if this is what you mean, but I forget who said this quote, but there's a quote that's fairly popular that I think kind of summarizes my own journey, which might help others, and that it's finding where your passion and where the world's greatest need meet. And then that is what you should pursue. And so I think if you do that is where you will find the ultimate joy. Like, for me, knowing that I love music and I love teaching, there's a need in my community for teaching kids, for safe after school communities, for music education, and I can combine those. And then that is my ultimate joy to do that every day. I love what I do. I love my job. Not looking forward to retirement. Like, I love my job. So just encouraging, if you can find that place where you can serve the needs in your community with the gifts and the skills that you have, that I hope that you will find the same joy that I've had.
Well, I'm getting some cues here, although I can't hear specifically what you're saying. Okay, thank you. Well, you've answered my pop question, and that is what brings you joy. We've done that, and thank you so much. And thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. It has really been delightful, and it was such a pleasure to meet you, Sabrina. And please join us next time on Her Story for another amazing journey.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Tune in to Grey County Life on Rogers TV next week.
We're going to find the updates that are happening at the Family YMCA.